In the far north of the Atlantic Ocean, beyond the reach of forests and fertile fields, there once stood a Viking colony unlike any other. For nearly 5 centuries, Norse settlers survived on the frozen edge of the known world. They built farms, churches, and entire communities among the fjords of Greenland. Then they disappeared. Not gradually, not after a recorded war, not after a known disaster. They simply vanished. And to this day, nobody knows exactly why. The story begins around the year 985. A Viking explorer named Eric the Red had been exiled from Iceland after a violent dispute. Searching for a new beginning, he sailed west and discovered a vast land covered mostly by ice. To attract settlers, he gave it a surprisingly inviting name: Greenland. The name worked. Within a few years, hundreds of Norse settlers followed him across the sea. Against all odds, they established thriving communities along Greenland's southern coast. These settlements became known as the Eastern Settlement and the Western Settlement. Life was never easy. The winters were long and brutal. Storms could isolate entire communities for months. The growing season was short. Every harvest mattered. Yet the colonies endured. The settlers raised livestock, hunted seals, traded valuable walrus ivory, and maintained contact with Norway and Iceland. They built stone churches. They followed European customs. For centuries, Greenland remained part of the Viking world. Then something changed. By the 14th century, records from Greenland became increasingly rare. Ships arrived less often. Trade routes weakened. The settlements grew more isolated. The first major warning came from the Western Settlement. A priest visiting the region reported something unsettling. The farms were empty. The buildings stood abandoned. The people were gone. No signs of battle. No mass graves. No explanation. The colony had simply disappeared. At first, the Eastern Settlement remained inhabited. But over the following decades, even this larger community faded into silence. The last known written record from Norse Greenland dates to the early 1400s. It describes a wedding held in a stone church, a celebration, a normal moment in everyday life. After that, the historical trail goes cold. When later explorers arrived, they found deserted farms, ruined churches, and empty fields. The Norse settlers had vanished from Greenland. So what happened? One theory points to climate change. During the medieval warm period, temperatures in the North Atlantic were relatively mild. But beginning in the 14th century, the climate became colder. Historians call this period the Little Ice Age. Sea ice expanded. Growing seasons shortened. Travel became more dangerous. The fragile Viking colonies may have slowly become unsustainable. But climate alone may not explain everything. Another theory focuses on isolation. Greenland depended heavily on trade with Europe. Iron tools, timber, and other essential supplies had to be imported. As trade declined, life became increasingly difficult. Without regular contact with the outside world, the settlements may have struggled to survive. Others suggest conflict. The Norse settlers shared Greenland with the Inuit, whose ancestors had migrated into the region centuries earlier. Some historical accounts mention tensions between the groups. Could violence have contributed to the colony's disappearance? Possibly. But evidence remains limited. There is another possibility: adaptation. Some researchers believe the settlers simply failed to adjust to changing conditions. While the Inuit thrived in the Arctic environment through hunting and specialized survival techniques, the Norse continued to rely heavily on European farming traditions. As conditions worsened, their way of life may have become increasingly fragile. Then there are the more mysterious ideas. Did some settlers abandon Greenland and attempt to return to Iceland? Did entire communities migrate elsewhere? Were they lost at sea? The historical record offers few answers, only silence. Today, the ruins remain. Stone walls stand among the windswept grass. Ancient churches overlook empty fjords. The landscape appears almost untouched by time. In many places, it feels as though the settlers left only yesterday, yet no witness ever recorded their final days. No document explains their fate. No grave tells the complete story. For nearly 500 years, the Vikings of Greenland endured one of the harshest environments on Earth. Then they vanished from history. Perhaps they were victims of climate, isolation, and hardship. Perhaps they left voluntarily in search of survival. Or perhaps part of the story has simply been lost forever. More than 6 centuries later, the abandoned settlements still stand in the shadow of Greenland's mountains, silent, frozen, waiting. And the mystery of what happened to the last Vikings of Greenland remains unsolved.